Every year, during Eid al-Adha, millions of Muslims around the world sacrifice animals. Sheep, goats, cows, camels. For many non-Muslims, and even for some Muslims, this raises an uncomfortable question. Why? Why would religion ask people to sacrifice animals? Why preserve a ritual that seems ancient in a modern world? Is it only tradition? Is it only symbolism? Is it simply blind obedience? Or is there something much deeper happening beneath the surface? Because from the outside, people often see only one moment, an animal being sacrificed. That question is far more uncomfortable than people realize. Because sacrifice is never really about the animal. It is about the human heart. And that is where the real story begins. To understand Eid al-Adha, you must first understand something simple. Human beings do not grow through comfort. We grow through sacrifice. Every meaningful thing in life demands it. Love demands sacrifice. Marriage demands sacrifice. Parenthood demands sacrifice. Success demands sacrifice. Discipline demands sacrifice. Even peace demands sacrifice. You cannot become stronger while protecting every comfort. You cannot become wiser while avoiding every pain. And you cannot become spiritually free while worshiping your own desires. This is where Qurbani, the ritual sacrifice of Eid al-Adha, begins to make sense. This is where people ask the obvious question. Why animals? Why not simply pray? Why not donate money? Why preserve an actual physical sacrifice? The answer is powerful because it reveals something about human nature. Human beings forget easily. We understand ideas better when they become physical. We remember lessons better when they cost us something real. That is why weddings have rings. Graduations have ceremonies. Funerals have rituals. Humans need visible acts for invisible truths. Qurbani works the same way. The animal is not the goal. It is the symbol. It is a visible reminder of an invisible reality. The Quran makes this absolutely clear. It is neither their meat nor their blood that reaches Allah, but your piety. That line changes everything, because it destroys the idea that Islam is about blood. It is not. Allah does not need the meat. Allah does not need the blood. Allah does not need the animal. The sacrifice is for you. It is a test of sincerity, a test of obedience, a test of whether your values are stronger than your comfort. Can you give for the sake of something higher? Can generosity defeat greed? Can devotion defeat ego? Can gratitude defeat selfishness? That is what matters, because sacrifice hurts. And if it does not cost you something, it is usually not sacrifice. Anyone can give what they do not care about. But can you give what matters? Can you give money you wanted to keep? Can you give time you wanted for yourself? Can you let go of control? Can you choose duty over desire? That is why the ritual remains powerful. Because the animal is not the center. You are. There is another side to Eid al-Adha that many people ignore. Its economic impact. People often think Qurbani is only spiritual. But Islam rarely separates spirituality from society. Worship is designed to benefit people. And Eid al-Adha is one of the clearest examples of that. Think about what happens before the sacrifice even begins. Farmers spend months, sometimes years, raising healthy animals. They feed them, protect them, care for them. For many small farmers, Eid al-Adha is one of the most important economic seasons of the year. It can determine whether their family survives financially. Livestock traders prepare. Transport workers move animals across cities and villages. Markets become active. Temporary jobs appear. Local sellers earn income. Veterinarians are needed. Feed suppliers benefit. Even small street vendors near livestock markets experience increased business. The economic wave spreads wider than most people realize. Then comes the sacrifice itself. Butchers are hired. Skilled workers are needed. Packaging workers help distribute meat. Volunteers organize logistics. Mosques coordinate community systems. Transportation networks become busy again. Entire neighborhoods move together. This is not a private ritual. It is a social engine. And then comes perhaps the most beautiful part: distribution. The meat is divided. One part for the family. One part for relatives and neighbors. One part for the poor and those in need. This matters deeply, because for many families around the world, this may be the only time all year they receive fresh meat. Think about that. For some children, Eid al-Adha is not just a holiday. It is the one day they experience abundance. The one day their table feels full. The one day dignity replaces scarcity. That changes how you see sacrifice. Because now it is not just worship. It is food security. It is economic circulation. It is social justice. It is dignity. Faith feeds people. Otherwise, it becomes performance. This is one of the genius designs of Islam. Spirituality and social responsibility are never separated. To love God must also mean caring for people. And that is why Qurbani remains powerful today, because it feeds both the soul and society. Some people think sacrifice belongs to ancient history, but modern life proves the opposite. In fact, modern people may need sacrifice more than ever, because today people worship comfort, convenience, instant pleasure, endless consumption. We live in a world that constantly says, take more, keep more, protect yourself first, avoid discomfort, choose pleasure, never let go. But human beings become weak when they never practice surrender. A person who cannot sacrifice becomes controlled by appetite, controlled by ego, controlled by fear, controlled by desire, and eventually controlled by anything that promises comfort. That is slavery. Real freedom requires discipline, and discipline always requires sacrifice. If you want health, you sacrifice laziness. If you want peace, you sacrifice ego. If you want love, you sacrifice selfishness. If you want faith, you sacrifice pride. Nothing meaningful grows without loss. This is why Qurbani is psychologically powerful. Trains the soul. It teaches a person, you are not the center of the universe. Your desires are not your God. Your comfort is not your purpose. There is something higher, and you must choose it. Again and again. That lesson is desperately needed today, because people are drowning in abundance, yet starving for meaning. They have more convenience than ever, but less peace. More entertainment, but less purpose. More connection, but deeper loneliness. Why? Because consumption cannot replace surrender, and comfort cannot replace meaning. Sacrifice teaches both. That is why this ritual survives, because human beings still need it, perhaps now more than ever. Sometimes the hardest sacrifice is not an animal. It is your pride. Maybe you need to apologize. Maybe your sacrifice is admitting you were wrong. Maybe your Qurbani is ending a toxic relationship. Maybe it is leaving an addiction. Maybe it is forgiving someone. Maybe it is forgiving yourself. Maybe it is letting go of the version of life you thought you deserved. Maybe it is surrendering the illusion that everything must go according to your plan. That kind of sacrifice is brutal because it attacks identity. It forces you to release control. And human beings hate losing control. We call it strength. Sometimes it is fear. We call it love. Sometimes it is dependence. We call it ambition. Sometimes it is obsession. The real question becomes, what owns you? Because whatever you cannot let go of owns you. That is the deeper meaning of sacrifice. It asks, who is in control here? You? Your desires? Your fears? Or Allah? That question is uncomfortable, because everyone has something they cling to: money, status, validation, relationships, career, reputation, comfort. And when life threatens it, panic begins, because losing it feels like losing yourself. But maybe that is exactly where freedom begins. Not when life gives you everything you want, but when you discover you can survive without what you thought you needed. That is liberation. That is tawakkul, trust, not passive hope, but active surrender. You work, you plan, you love, you build, but your heart stays free, because you know the source is Allah, not the means. That balance is the real sacrifice, and it is harder than most people realize. So when you see Muslims celebrating Eid al-Adha, when you see prayer, family gatherings, and the sacrifice of animals, know that beneath it all lies a much deeper story. Not just history, human nature, not just religion, reality. Because every person must answer this question. What matters most? What are you willing to give up for something greater? Can generosity defeat greed? Can faith defeat fear? Can surrender defeat ego? Can trust survive uncertainty? That is the real test, not only for Muslims, for everyone. Some people never learn sacrifice, and they become prisoners of what they refuse to lose. The career they worship destroys their family. The pride they protect destroys their peace. The comfort they cling to destroys their growth. The love they refuse to release destroys their dignity. Not every prison has walls. Some prisons are called success. Some prisons are called desire. Some prisons are called control. And some prisons are called fear. Eid al-Adha asks us to look honestly at our chains, and then asks the hardest question of all. Will you let them go? Because the goal was never blood. It was always the heart. The goal was never the animal. It was always the human being. And maybe the real reason Muslims sacrifice animals every year is to remember something we all keep forgetting. Nothing you love should sit above the one who gave it to you. That is the lesson. That is the freedom. That is Eid al-Adha.